a YouTube channel focusing on deep woods exploration recently uploaded a video that has left outdoor enthusiasts and casual viewers alike feeling deeply unsettled. The footage was captured by two experienced hikers who were spending a long weekend trekking deep into an isolated national park known for its dense, unforgiving terrain. For the first 2 days of their trek, their video log is entirely normal, filled with scenic vistas, campfire cooking, and light-hearted banter about getting away from civilization. But as they push further into an unmapped valley on their third afternoon, the atmosphere shifts completely. The hikers notice that the forest has gone entirely silent. There are no birds calling, no insects buzzing, and even the wind seems to have died down to an unnatural, breathless calm. Deciding to set up camp early due to the heavy, oppressive mood of the woods, they pitch their tent in a small clearing surrounded by towering pines. As night falls, the camera is placed on a log to record them discussing the strange lack of wildlife. Suddenly, from the pitch-black woods just beyond the tree line, a loud, heavy thud echoes through the silence. It sounds exactly like a massive boulder being dropped from a significant height, shattering the quiet. The hikers immediately freeze, their flashlights darting into the thick brush. For several agonizing moments, nothing moves. Then the sound happens again, closer this time, accompanied by the distinct rhythmic snapping of heavy branches. Something incredibly large is walking through the dense undergrowth, but despite the power of their high-lumen flashlights, the camera catches absolutely nothing but shifting shadows and trembling leaves. The unseen presence circles the perimeter of their campsite for over an hour, always staying just a few feet beyond the reach of the light. Believers in cryptozoology and wilderness lore suggests this could be an encounter with an undocumented apex predator or a legendary forest entity. Noting that the complete silence of the woods often precedes such sightings, skeptics, on the other hand, argue that the hikers could have easily staged the audio or encountered a displaced large mammal, like a rogue bear acting territorial. Still, the genuine terror in the men's voices as they huddle inside their tent, listening to heavy, deliberate footsteps brush against the nylon fabric, makes this a harrowing watch for anyone who enjoys the isolation of the great outdoors. Shifting our focus to an urban environment, a late-night security guard at a historic theater in Chicago shared a compilation of surveillance clips that challenges the idea that old buildings are only creepy when they are completely empty. The theater, built in the early 1920s, has a long history of local ghost stories, but the guard claims he never believed any of them until he was assigned the midnight shift. The footage begins in the main auditorium, where the expansive seating area is bathed in the dim, amber glow of the emergency exit signs. The guard is seen walking down the center aisle, performing his standard perimeter check dot as he reaches the edge of the stage. A massive, ornate velvet curtain hanging on the left side begins to ripple violently, as if a strong gust of wind just tore through the indoor space. The guard stops, shining his flashlight toward the fabric, assuming a backstage door or a ventilation shaft has malfunctioned. But as he steps onto the stage to investigate, the motion stops instantly. The moment his back is turned to leave, the heavy curtain is forcefully pulled backward, snapping against the rigging with an immense amount of tension before releasing. Later in the same video compilation, The camera angle shifts to the underground dressing rooms beneath the stage. A row of vanity mirrors reflects the empty, dimly lit corridor. Without warning, every single light bulb lining the mirrors begins to glow with blinding intensity, far brighter than their standard wattage, before exploding in a synchronized burst of glass and sparks. The security footage shows the guard rushing into the hallway moments later, only to find the area completely dark and covered in debris. Paranormal investigators who analyze the clips point out that the sheer force required to move the heavy stage curtains, combined with the explosive electrical surge, aligns perfectly with classic poltergeist manifestations often tied to locations with high emotional history. Grounded explanations lean towards severe structural issues, suggesting that ancient wiring could have easily caused a localized surge, and localized drafts in massive, cavernous theaters are notoriously deceptive. Whatever the case, navigating those subterranean concrete hallways alone in the dark after witnessing such a violent display would test the resolve of even the most hardened skeptic. Our next clip takes us to a remote stretch of highway in Western Australia, captured by a long-haul truck driver's forward-facing dashcam. Dashcams often capture the strange and unexpected, but what this driver encountered in the desolate expanse of the Outback defies easy explanation. The video shows a completely empty two-lane road stretching endlessly into the dark, illuminated only by the truck's powerful high beams. The driver is listening to a quiet radio broadcast, the steady hum of the engine providing a hypnotic background noise. Suddenly, a strange, shimmering distortion appears on the asphalt a few hundred yards ahead. At first, it looks like a typical heat mirage, but given that it is past midnight in the cool desert air, a heat mirage is virtually impossible. As the truck closes the distance, the distortion solidifies into a dense, pitch-black fog that seems to occupy only a specific 20-foot section of the highway. The driver slows down significantly, cautious of low visibility. The moment the truck's headlights pierce the black mist, the radio cuts to static, and a loud, high-pitched hum fills the cabin. Inside the dark fog, the dashcam captures a series of brilliant, geometric patterns of light pulsing just inches above the road surface. They don't look like fire, nor do they look like automotive lights. Instead, they resemble glowing neon blueprints shifting and turning in midair. The truck passes through the distortion in a matter of seconds, and as soon as it exits back onto the clear highway, the radio instantly returns to normal, and the strange hum vanishes. The driver immediately pulls over, stepping out to look back. But the highway behind him is completely empty and clear. UFO enthusiasts and researchers who studied the dashcam footage believe this could be a rare recording of a localized electromagnetic anomaly or a low-altitude UAP phenomenon interacting with the Earth's surface. Skeptics suggest that a highly specialized digital artifact caused by a sudden lens flare or an internal malfunction of the dashcam's sensor when exposed to a specific type of reflective road material could explain the visual patterns. However, the physical reaction of the truck's audio equipment and the driver's immediate, frantic reaction to the sudden loss of visibility suggests that something very real and very strange was waiting on that lonely road moving along. we look at a video uploaded by a homeowner who recently purchased an abandoned mid-century property with the intention of restoring it. While exploring the overgrown backyard, he discovered a small, concrete storm cellar buried beneath decades of ivy and dead brush. Armed with his smartphone camera, he decided to break the rusted padlock and document his first look inside the subterranean structure. The video begins with the heavy wooden doors creaking open, revealing a steep set of stone steps leading down into absolute darkness. The air inside is visibly thick, filled with floating dust motes caught in the beam of his phone's light. The basement is mostly empty, containing only a few rotted wooden shelves and an old, rusted iron bed frame in the far corner. The uploader walks around the room, pointing out the structural integrity of the concrete walls, noting that despite the age of the house, the cellar is remarkably dry. As he turns the camera toward the staircase to leave, a distinct, which sliding sound can be heard coming from beneath the iron bed frame. The uploader stops, lowering the camera slightly as he hesitates. He slowly pans back toward the dark corner. Beneath the rusted frame, the dust on the floor has been freshly cleared away, creating a wide, smooth trail that extends out from the wall. As the camera focuses on the shadow beneath the bed, a pale, multi-jointed appendage briefly extends from the darkness, gripping the iron leg of the bed frame for a fraction of a second before retreating back into the tight space between the frame and the concrete wall. The uploader lets out a muffled exclamation, immediately sprinting up the stairs and slamming the cellar doors shut. The video ending in a chaotic blur of motion. Viewers who frequent internet mystery forums have speculated that the property might be harboring an animal that adapted to the dark, enclosed space, or perhaps someone was using the abandoned cellar as a makeshift shelter and did not want to be discovered. Others believe the fluid, unnatural movement of the appendage looks far too alien to belong to a common woodland creature. Local historians later pointed out that the area had been abandoned quickly during a series of strange land disputes decades prior, leaving some to wonder if whatever drove the original owners away is still lingering beneath the soil. Over on a popular web forum dedicated to antique collecting, a user shared a video that has caused many people to reconsider keeping old historical items in their bedrooms. The uploader had recently purchased a large, beautifully crafted grandfather clock from an estate sale dating back to the late 19th century. Though the internal mechanisms were damaged and the clock could no longer tick or keep time, he placed it in the corner of his guest bedroom purely for its aesthetic value. Because he lived alone and occasionally heard strange creaking noises, he set up a motion-activated camera facing the clock to see if the wood was shifting due to temperature changes. The video captures the room during the early morning hours, silent and still. Suddenly, the motion sensor triggers and the recording begins. The heavy brass pendulum, which had been securely locked into a stationary position to prevent damage, begins to swing. At first it moves slowly, but within seconds it achieves a full rhythmic motion, clanging loudly against the interior wooden casing. What makes the footage truly bizarre is that the glass door protecting the pendulum remains completely closed and latched as the pendulum continues to swing violently. The two iron hands on the clock face, which had been stuck at 12 o'clock since its purchase, began to spin rapidly, in reverse. They move with an unnatural smoothness, spinning backward through the hours until the clock face becomes a blur. Suddenly, the spinning stops, the pendulum freezes dead in the center, and the glass door of the clock violently pops open, swinging wide on its hinges before the video cuts out. The uploader insists that no one else was in the house, and a subsequent inspection of the clock showed that the internal gears were still completely fused with. Rust.horror enthusiasts and paranormal researchers suggest that the clock may be acting as an anchor for a residual haunting, where an energy from the item's past manifests by mimicking its original function in an exaggerated, chaotic way. Mechanical engineers who viewed the clip offered a more practical view, stating that internal stress within the old springs could have suddenly released, causing a chain reaction that freed the hands and the pendulum simultaneously. Yet the precise way the movement started and stopped, combined with the unlatching of the secure glass door, leaves a lingering sense of unease. Our next video comes from a high-rise office building in Tokyo, captured by an employee who stayed late to finish a project long after the rest of his department had gone home. The office is vast, a sea of empty cubicles and darkened computer monitors, with only a single row of overhead fluorescent lights illuminating the worker's desk. The employee decided to record a short video to send to his friends, complaining about the heavy workload and the creepy atmosphere of an empty corporate floor at night. As he pans the camera across the room, showing the rows of vacant desks, a soft, rhythmic clicking sound begins to echo from the far side of the floor. It sounds exactly like someone typing rapidly on a mechanical keyboard. The employee stops talking, turning the camera toward the source of the noise. He begins to walk slowly down the central aisle, his footsteps echoing softly against the thin carpet. As he gets closer to a cubicle in the corner, the typing becomes louder and more frantic, accompanied by the distinct sound of a computer mouse being clicked. When the camera finally rounds the corner of the cubicle, it reveals an active computer terminal. The monitor is brightly illuminated, displaying a blank word processing document. Text is rapidly appearing on the screen, line after line of incoherent characters and symbols, typing itself out at an impossible speed. The physical keys on the keyboard are visibly depressing on their own, sinking down into the frame as if pushed by invisible fingers. The employee reaches out to touch the monitor, but the moment his hand gets close, the screen goes completely black, the typing stops, and every single desk phone on the entire office floor begins to ring simultaneously, creating a deafening, chaotic chorus of electronic chimes. Tech-savvy viewers have suggested that the entire incident could be the result of a sophisticated remote hack, where an outside entity took control of the computer terminal and used a software macro to simulate typing. Though this doesn't fully explain the physical movement of the mechanical keys, those who lean toward the supernatural believe that the intense, stressful energy of a corporate environment can sometimes leave a strange imprint, causing repetitive, mundane actions to replay themselves when the physical space is quiet. Regardless of the technical explanation, being trapped on a high floor of a massive building with hundreds of phones ringing in the dark is a scenario straight out of a nightmare. Next, we look at a video that was posted to a community neighborhood watch app filmed by a resident who was checking on his property during a severe thunderstorm. The homeowner had noticed that his outdoor motion lights were continuously turning on and off, despite the heavy rain keeping any neighborhood animals under cover. Standing on his covered back porch, he began recording the backyard with his phone, trying to see if a fallen tree branch was swinging in front of the sensor. The yard is large, bordered by a thick wooden privacy fence and a row of dense hedges dot. The video shows the backyard plunging into darkness for a few seconds before the powerful floodlights snap back on, illuminating the torrential rain. During one of these brief periods of illumination, a tall, incredibly thin silhouette can be seen standing perfectly still in the dead center of the lawn. The figure appears to be wearing a dark, heavy coat, but its proportions are entirely wrong. Its arms extend down past its knees, and its head is tilted at a severe, unnatural angle. The homeowner gasps, gripping the camera tighter as the floodlights turn off again. When the lights snap back on a few seconds later, the figure has moved. It is now standing several yards closer to the porch, its body completely rigid, maintaining the exact same twisted posture. The storm rages around it, but the figure does not flinch or react to the wind and rain. The homeowner panics, retreating toward his back door, keeping the camera pointed at the yard. The lights click off one final time, and when they return, the figure is gone, leaving only a deep, flattened patch of grass where it had been standing just moments prior. Some viewers believe the video is a clever hoax, achieved by using a friend in a costume and utilizing the natural cuts provided by the flickering floodlights to move closer between takes. Others argue that the weather conditions and the sheer speed at which the figure covered the distance make a human actor unlikely, suggesting instead that the camera captured a manifestation of a local urban legend or an elemental entity drawn out by the high energy of the storm. The vulnerability of being separated from an unidentifiable, fast-moving presence by only a few yards of open space is enough to make anyone double-check the locks on their windows. We now turn to a video captured by a night shift worker at an automated car wash facility. The facility is entirely self-service during the late hours, with no staff on site except for the technician who monitors the mechanical systems from a small office behind the main wash bay. The technician decided to review the security footage after noticing a strange error. Log in the system that indicated a wash cycle had been triggered without any payment being processed or any vehicle entering the bay. The security camera angle shows the entrance of the long, concrete tunnel of the car wash, illuminated by harsh blue LED lights. The massive cloth brushes and high-pressure water jets sit idle. Suddenly, the system activates on its own. The overhead sign flashes to indicate a vehicle has arrived, and the conveyor track begins to move. As the water jets activate, spraying a dense mist through the tunnel, a distinct shape begins to form in the water spray. It is the perfect outline of a classic vintage sedan, moving slowly down the track. The physical brushes of the car wash react as if solid metal and glass are passing through them. They bend, spin, and press inward, wrapping around an invisible chassis. The soapy foam coats the air, clinging to a transparent surface, revealing the detailed contours of a car roof, a hood, and side mirrors, though nothing solid can be seen beneath the soap. The invisible vehicle moves all the way through the automated cycle, and as it reaches the final drying phase, the massive air blowers blast the remaining water away, causing the shape to dissolve back into the empty air. Mechanics and software engineers who analyzed the footage suggest that a major sensor malfunction could have tricked the system into running, and the movement of the brushes could be a pre-programmed diagnostic sequence rather than a physical reaction to an object. Paranormal enthusiasts, however, counter that a diagnostic mode would not cause foam and water to perfectly outline a specific vehicle shape in midair, proposing instead that the facility was built over an old roadway where a residual haunting of a past traveler continues to retrace its steps. Moving on, we examine a video shared by a university student who is using a specialized audio-visual setup to study the acoustic properties of an old, abandoned underground stone quarry near his campus. The quarry had been closed for over a century, consisting of a vast network of flooded tunnels and deep, carved stone chambers. The student lowered a waterproof, high-definition camera equipped with a powerful spotlight down into a deep, vertical shaft that connected to a lower, flooded cavern. The video feed shows the camera descending slowly through the dark water, the spotlight illuminating the rough, pale limestone walls of the shaft. Small cave fish and floating particles drift past the lens as the camera descends deeper into the earth. After several minutes, the camera exits the narrow shaft and enters a massive, submerged chamber. The visibility is remarkably clear, revealing huge, ancient wooden scaffolding left behind by the miners, perfectly preserved by the cold. Oxygen-poor water dot as the camera pans across the floor of the flooded cavern. The spotlight catches something reflecting in the distance. The student moves the camera closer, revealing a perfectly preserved, hand-carved stone altar sitting in the center of the room. Surrounding the altar are dozens of small iron figurines shaped like human forms, all arranged in a perfect circle facing inward. Suddenly, the calm water around the camera begins to churn violently. A massive dark mass moves across the upper edge of the frame, blocking out the light. The audio feed, captured by a hydrophone, registers a deep, rhythmic vibration that sounds like a low, multi-toned chant echoing through the water. Geologists who viewed the clip state that underwater structural collapses or sudden gas releases from the deep earth can cause the water to churn and create low-frequency vibrations that sound remarkably like human vocalizations. Culturally minded researchers, however, note that the deliberate arrangement of the iron figurines suggests that the quarry may have been used for secret, esoteric practices before it was flooded, and whatever energy was invoked there might still be contained within the pressurized depth of the cavern. Our 10th video takes us to a modern, automated warehouse facility where a drone enthusiast was testing a high-end indoor scanning drone designed to map inventory using infrared and thermal imaging. The warehouse is a sprawling complex of massive metal shelves stretching multiple stories into the air, completely managed by automated machinery with no human workers on the floor during the weekend. The drone's video feed displays a dual view, a standard digital camera on the left and a highly sensitive thermal heat map on the right. The drone hovers effortlessly down a long aisle, the thermal view showing a completely uniform, cold blue environment. As all the machinery is powered down and the building is climate controlled. As the drone reaches the center of the warehouse, a bright, intense streak of orange and red appears on the thermal monitor, indicating a sudden, concentrated source of high heat. The standard camera shows absolutely nothing but empty concrete space between two shelving units. The drone pilot stops the aircraft, hovering in place to get a closer look at the anomaly. The thermal signature is shaped like a human being, radiating an intense heat that glows white-hot at the center. The entity begins to walk slowly along the high shelves, its movements fluid and deliberate. As it moves, the thermal camera captures the heat, transferring to the metal shelves, leaving glowing red handprints on the physical infrastructure that slowly fade over time. Yet on the standard camera feed right next to it, the space remains completely vacant, with no distortion, no shadow, and no physical presence whatsoever. Suddenly, the thermal entity turns to face the drone, and the heat signature expands rapidly, filling the screen with a blinding white light before the drone's signal is completely severed. Skeptics point out that advanced thermal imaging equipment can suffer from severe calibration errors, where a ghost image from a previous scan or a localized steam pipe reflection can create a false human-shaped reading. Tech investigators suggest a simpler explanation involving a software glitch in the drone's rendering engine. On the other hand, those who study anomalous phenomena suggest that some entities may exist on a vibrational frequency that bypasses visible light entirely, but still interacts heavily with the infrared and thermal spectrum, leaving a physical, measurable trace of their presence in our world. Our final video is perhaps the most disturbing of the collection. Filmed by a commercial airline pilot who was staying at an isolated airport transit hotel during a severe weather delay in northern Canada. The hotel is a bleak, modern structure surrounded by miles of frozen tarmac and dark pine forests. The pilot, unable to sleep due to jet lag, decided to record the fierce blizzard howling outside his third-floor window using the night vision mode on his digital camera. The video shows the bleak landscape, the driving snow illuminated as a bright, ghostly green by the night vision filter. In the distance, past the security fences of the airfield, the dark tree line of the forest stands as a stark contrast against the white snow. As the pilot pans the camera along the fence, he notices a series of large, dark shapes emerging from the woods. They look like a pack of wolves at first, but as they clear the tree line, their behavior changes. The creatures, numbering at least 6, stand upright on 2 legs. They begin to move across the open, snow-covered field toward the hotel with incredible speed, their long, lean bodies unbothered by the deep snowdrifts. The night vision lens catches the intense bioluminescent glow of their eyes, which reflect the light as brilliant white points of contrast. The pack stops just outside the hotel's perimeter fence, scaling the high chain-link barrier with effortless acrobatic leaps. The pilot gasps, backing away from the window as the entities gather in the courtyard directly beneath his room. They tilt their heads upward, staring directly into the camera lens with wide, vacant expressions, their jaws unhinging in a silent, synchronized motion before the pilot shuts the curtains and turns off the device. Aviation authorities and local wildlife experts who reviewed the footage suggested that the video could be a highly sophisticated digital composition created using advanced rendering software to overlay CGI models onto real footage of a blizzard. Noting that the pilot's anonymity makes verification difficult. Local indigenous communities, however, have long warned of entities that inhabit the deep northern wilderness, capable of mimicking human posture and drawn to the isolated outposts of civilization during the darkest winter storms. Whether a masterful digital creation or a terrifying glimpse into the unknown corners of the world, it is an image that stays with you long after the video ends.